Great. I will go ahead and kick us off then. Thank you everybody for joining. I think I saw a glimpse. We had a room full of people, so it looks like we have a great turnout today. So that's wonderful. Thank you for joining us today and allowing us the opportunity to speak with you about the FDIC. I'll start. My name is Andrea Turner. I'm a supervisory examiner with the FDIC. I've been with the corporation about 13 years, and we only have half an hour today to talk with you, so we're going to try to make it interactive. Please feel free to, if you have questions along the way, just raise your hand or speak up, and we're happy to share the information that we have, and I'll let the other two presenters introduce themselves.
So good morning. My name is Mike Epstein, and I'm the field supervisor for the New York territory for the FDIC and what we call the Division of Risk Management Supervision, or RMS. I've been with the FDIC for almost 21 years, started as an intern, so I know what it's like to sit in your chair and to hear about prospective employees or employers. Look forward to hearing your questions at the end of the presentation. Please don't be shy. We're happy to answer anything we can. And I'll hand it over to Sandy.
Hi, and I'm Sandy DiChiara. Sorry you can't see me today. I've been with the FDIC 28 years. I'm the field supervisor like Mike, but for the opposite division, the Division of Depositor and Consumer Protection. And you'll learn a little bit more about what we do in a little bit. I'm glad to be here.
Oops. All right, Sandy, you can go to the next slide. Got it. Perfect. All right, so just our objectives today. We obviously we just introduce ourselves. We want to talk to you a little bit about who we are and what we do with the FDIC. I'll tell you a little bit about our pay and benefits, and then we'll go over the career opportunities that we have. So as I mentioned, we want this to be an informational session and to keep it interactive, but we'll cover as much as we can in the half hour that we have. And hopefully at the end we can learn a little bit about you if there's time at the end. All right, so what is the FDIC? You probably, if you have a bank account, you probably recognize that emblem up there at the right-hand corner of your screen. So basically what the FDIC does is we insure all of the insured banks here in the US. So just to talk a little bit about our history and how we were created. If you recognize any of these pictures on the slide, these are pictures from back in 1929 during the Great Recession, that was more recent, the Great Depression, where a couple $1 billion of money was lost in banks when banks failed during the Great Depression. So hundreds of banks failed, and people lost their livelihoods because there was no safety net or insurance for banks against losing all of your money, all of your deposits in banks if your bank failed. So what came out of that is we, the FDIC, were created to insure your deposits and my deposits that we all collectively keep in our banks. So feel free to pipe in. I'm gonna ask a question to the audience. Does anybody know how much money the FDIC insures in your bank? I'll just give you the answer. No pressure. So we insure up to $250,000 of deposits in our banks. Sandy, I think you can go to the next slide for me. All right, so just want to tell you a little bit about our mission. Basically, as I just mentioned, the FDIC is an independent agency. We were created by Congress in 1933 following the Great Depression, and our mission is to maintain stability and public confidence in the nation's financial system. And there's basically four functions. We insure, we supervise, we resolve, and we manage receiverships. And so we'll talk to you a little bit about our role, my role, Mike's role, and Sandy's role in one of those four prongs. And then we'll also just briefly talk about some other divisions that the FDIC does to meet this mission. So basically, our role is to ensure that there is no disruption to banking services if a bank does fail. And that does happen from time to time, still, even to this day. We basically represent the supervision activities in RMS and DCP. So Mike and I work in RMS, Risk Management Supervision, and Sandy works in DCP, which she'll talk to you in a little bit about. But there are, as I mentioned, there are these two other branches of the FDIC that work on the resolution and the management of failed banks. So I'll just go over a little bit of our responsibilities in RMS, and then I'll turn it over to Sandy to talk about what she does in DCP. So basically, in RMS, Risk Management Supervision, we have responsibilities to examine banks. And it's similar to the work of an auditor, but we don't audit banks. We basically assess risk and we assign ratings based on that risk to set insurance premiums. So we rate banks based on 6 factors. And it's similar if you think about other insurance industries. If you think about how premiums are set for, let's say, health insurance or life insurance, the premium that a person pays will go up if an individual is at high risk, for example, for health insurance. So if they're overweight or if they're a smoker, they're going to pay a higher insurance premium. That's kind of similar to how we set insurance premiums for banks. So if a bank is taking a lot of risk, we go in and we identify that risk, and then we rate them accordingly. We do that based on 6 factors, as I just mentioned. Our acronym for the 6 factors is called CAMELS. We use CAMELS ratings, and that stands for the 6 risk factors for capital adequacy, asset quality, management and the capabilities of the management team, earnings, so we assess their profitability and their prospects for profitability in the future. We look at their liquidity and their management of their cash flows, and their sensitivity to market risk, so basically how external factors can affect the bank, like changes in interest rates or other market factors. So one really cool thing about our role as the insurer, the insurance entity, is that we have the power and the authority to tell banks that they have to change their practices if they are taking too much risk, and if that jeopardizes the safety of the institution. So we can enforce our authority in several ways. We can cite violations of banking law, we can charge penalties, we can issue enforcement actions, and ultimately we can close a bank if they take too much risk and get into too much financial trouble. So basically, as I mentioned, we look at asset classes and how risky they are, and we basically ensure that the bank is managing those risks appropriately. So it's a really unique role. Like I said, we aren't auditors and we aren't consultants, but in some ways we do act a little bit like auditors sometimes and a little bit like consultants sometimes. So like I said, it's a unique role that we have, and it's certainly challenging and it's rewarding because bankers really like to get our perspectives to help protect them. So Sandy, I'll turn it over to you to talk about what you do in DCP, in compliance and consumer protection.
Great, thanks, Andrea. So the Division of Depositor Consumer Protection, or as we call compliance, we assess the fairness to consumers. So that's you, your parents, your grandparents, and all your family and friends. We supervise insured financial institutions to ensure that they treat consumers and depositors fairly and operate in compliance with federal, consumer protection, anti-discrimination, and community reinvestment laws. And we promote economic inclusion by helping to build and strengthen positive connections between insured financial institutions and consumers, depositors, businesses, and communities. So what that means to you is when you go to a bank, or your mom or your grandparent goes to a bank, when they're opening a deposit account, when they're applying for a loan, we're making sure that everything that they're provided gives them the information they need to make an educated decision. We're also making sure that people aren't discriminated based on race, religion, sex orientation, anything. We make sure that banks are actually applying all their standards to everyone fairly and equitably so that everyone has the same opportunities. And then lastly, with Community Reinvestment Act, we're making sure that when banks take deposits from certain communities, that they're also lending in those communities. So we're making sure that they're actually not just taking deposits from one area and then going investing in another community. So what we do on a daily basis actually impacts all of you kind of like more on an everyday basis, because you all go to a bank, you go to an ATM machine, you Venmo today, but that money is coming from a bank somewhere, and we make sure that the information that you're given and the fees that you're charged are all accurately and clearly disclosed so everyone knows what they're getting into. That's it in a nutshell.
All right, great. Thanks, Sandy. And as I mentioned, we do have 2 other branches. None of us on this call, work currently in those other branches, but there are other branches that work for the FDIC to fulfill the mission. And that, as I mentioned, it's the Division of Resolutions and Receiverships. A little bit later, we're going to talk about some career opportunities that we have, and there are certainly lots of them, and there are, of course, always opportunities in these other divisions as well. So if you want to learn more, you could go to our website, fdic.gov, and you could read about all of our different divisions and learn more. But I'll stop here. As I said, we do want to make it interactive, so if you have any questions at this point, we're happy to stop and take questions. Otherwise, we'll move on, and I'll discuss a little bit about our pay and our benefits. Let me see if anybody... Doesn't look like anybody has a question, so we'll keep moving. All right, so pay and benefits. One cool thing about the FDIC is we are considered a quasi-government entity. So we are technically a private corporation, but we're backed by the U.S. Treasury. So we do have all of the awesome pay and benefits of a government agency without actually being a government agency. So just to give you a little touch on what our pay and benefits are, obviously you can see the bullets on the slide. I won't read those to you, but I'll share a little bit about what those benefits are. So it's very generous. You get health care coverage up to 88% of health benefits are covered. We have an excellent retirement program. So it includes a defined benefit or pension plan. And you can participate in 2 different 401k plans. So that's one really cool thing. I haven't seen that in any other private entity where you can opt into 2 different 401k programs. We have free life insurance, and you get all your travel expenses reimbursed. Obviously, we're coming to you live from our homes right now in this pandemic, but obviously part of our normal job duties when we're not in a pandemic is to travel around to different banks, and so we do have generous travel expense reimbursement programs and subsidies. And we also offer flexible work schedules, so all of our lives are getting more flexible as we work through this pandemic, so we do offer telework, obviously working from home. We also offer benefits where you can work extra hours and bank up extra hours to use as time off for the future. So we're really embracing a lot of flexibility, which we know is important to everyone in the workforce. You get 10 paid holidays per year, and then 2 weeks vacation in your first 3 years, and then 2 extra weeks of what we call sick leave if you get sick. So you definitely get a lot of great benefits, a lot of time off. Yeah, and then finally, work-life balance. As I mentioned, we're getting more and more flexible, and we're really learning a lot of lessons through this pandemic to figure out, what really can be done off-site or from our homes, and where our work is done more efficiently when we gather together in the office and go out to banks. So we're really sort of streamlining our workflows in that way. So I'll stop here again if anybody has any questions, and if not, I will turn it over to Mike to talk about our career opportunities.
Okay, thank you, Andrea, and thank you everyone for joining us. And I think that this is really what we are here to present to you, which is our regional intern program. So as you can see by the screen, we try to make it as detailed as we possibly could in terms of what our regional intern program is all about. So currently we're taking applications. There is a current posting out. It expires on October 15th. It is a paid internship, which will start in May of 2022. And as you could see by the bottom bullet, you could see the salary differential. And basically that depends on what location you're in. Obviously, if you're in New York, you would get one of the higher localities versus Nebraska or somewhere else where the localities aren't as expensive, excuse me. One major point here is that you must be a U.S. citizen to work for us. As Andrea had mentioned, we are a government agency. Even though we're quasi-government, we still require citizenship to work for our organization. In terms of majors, you can definitely go to USA Jobs and look at the specific majors, but I wanted to highlight a few right off the top. So we are looking for people that are majoring in economics, finance, accounting, marketing, business administration, statistics, or other related fields like information technology and whatnot. So it is a wide range of accounting or majors, I'm sorry, that you could apply, be part of this program with. As you can see, the minimum overall GPA requirement is 3.0. And then obviously what I think is really important and something that's worked really well for Sandy and myself is depending on your location, you do have the opportunity to work part-time beyond the summer when you do return to school. So that might give you an opportunity to make a little bit more money when you do return to school and finish the internship or the official internship of that summer. Some other items that I didn't list here on the slide, but I did want to go over. Number one, the required documents that are needed for this posting. So number one, you need your resume. You need a college transcript, which shows your overall GPA and the courses and grades that you've taken, and you require a cover letter. If you do put in a posting and you are put on the roster, you will be selected to do an interview, and the interview will be conducted with managers like myself, Sandy, or Andrea, likely remotely. To qualify, another really major point here is that you must have completed 2 full academic years towards your degree. So in other words, we do welcome sophomores to apply, and we do hire a number of sophomores. The other important factor here is when you do sign up, you get a $2,500 one-time stipend, which is paid out right at the beginning of your internship. And I'm going to stop here for a minute. Are there any questions? Because I went over it pretty quickly. I want to make sure we have enough time to cover your questions as well.
Yeah, Michael, I have a clarifying question?
Yeah, please.
So in terms of the summer internship, what is the compensation rate versus what's on the slide is if you had continued on after your internship? Or I guess I need
Right.
clarity there. Thank you.
Yeah, so no, thank you, Shannon. So when you join us as an intern, you come in as a grade 4. If you are hired full-time, you get elevated to a grade 7. And I think there's somewhere between a 10 to 15% increase in pay between the grade 4 and the grade 7. And certainly the other thing too, we are all about transparency in this organization. So you're welcome to go to the FDIC.gov, and they do give you a full explanation of all the grade levels and the varying pay bands that are offered. And obviously the pay is highly dependent on what location you're in. I'm sorry, I hear an echo, but yeah, so it's very important to recognize that. Go ahead, Andrea.
Yeah, and I would probably just add, so I think, Shannon, you're asking about that starting salary at the last bullet. So that would obviously be prorated. So if you worked for 2 years as part of your internship, that would be, I'm sorry, did I say 2 years? 2 months. That would be 2 months salary out of a full year's salary.
Right.
Oh, okay, I understand. Thank you. And then there was a question in chat to clarify.
We're not paying $53,000 for the summer. Sorry.
No, exactly.
I want that job.
Exactly. But it's still a great starting salary. There is another question just to clarify that you had mentioned the 2 years completed. So sophomore or someone who is really they should be a sophomore completing their sophomore year should apply because that summer they will be eligible having completed 2 years in college, correct?
Yeah, so 2 full academic years towards your degree. So yes. So you would have to be completing your sophomore year if you were to apply this internship this summer.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before I continue? And thank you for your questions and your thoughts. I want to make sure this is clear as possible. So I did want to highlight some of the locations that we are hiring for, and I'm going to highlight them that are in our region. So we represent the New York regional office, so that covers the whole Northeast, side of the United States. Really stops anywhere below Washington D.C. for our region. So we are offering opportunities in Wilmington, Delaware, Monroe, New Jersey, New York, obviously, Syracuse, New York, Blue Bell, Pennsylvania, Seven Fields, Pennsylvania, San Juan, Puerto Rico, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Columbia, Maryland, and Braintree, Massachusetts. So again, I'm going to stop here to see if there's any other questions before I continue and talk a little bit more about the opportunities we have once you complete your internship, or if you are looking to apply for a position and you're close to graduation.
I have a question.
Yes, please. Hi.
So would this internship be working fully in person, or would it be online as well?
So thanks, Dan. That's a good question. So obviously, because of the pandemic, the last 2 internships we've had to hold remotely. Right now, it's a wait and see. I don't know. Obviously, ideally, we would like to hold them in person, but we have to see what kind of conditions we're in and if we're allowed to come off of mandatory telework by May. So sorry, I don't have a clear answer for you right now. We're all currently in mandatory telework status until at least November.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. One plug I can make is that the majority of folks that have come in and done the internship remotely have really enjoyed it. And the one plug I always give them, if you like doing it remotely, you'll love it even more when you come on site and work in person. So I think we have done a really good job over the last 2 years to give everyone a really good opportunity and for them to really learn what the job is all about. The other nice plug that I like to give for our internships is that, obviously the work that you do as an intern is exactly the kind of work you would do if you were full-time. This is not grunt work. We actually have you work through benchmarks and make sure that you get to experience as much as possible with regards to this position and know exactly what you'd be walking into as a full-time employee. Okay, any other questions before we move forward?
Mike, we have a question in the chat asking if international students are able to do the summer internship, or if the restriction that you mentioned, I think she's asking about the restriction of being a U.S. citizen, if that's just
you need to be a U.S. citizen. Yep. And I don't see that in the chat. I'm sorry. Maybe I missed that. Okay. All right. So Sandy, if you go over to the next slide. Just talking a little bit more about future opportunities and our corporate employee program. So, outside of our internship, we also offer full-time opportunities under our corporate employee program. That is the CG7 position. It's an entry-level position, as you can see by the slides, 3 to 3.5 years. As we mentioned, you could be hired directly into risk management supervision or consumer protection. Sandy represents consumer protection. We represent risk management supervision. It's a combination of classroom, online, and on-the-job learning experience. Obviously, we really try to make it as supportive as we possibly can in terms of your overall learning process and your learning environment. We provide you coaches, we provide benchmarks, we provide you development plans to make sure that you are successful. And then lastly, there is a career ladder promotion or position. So basically, you come in as a CG7, and then within 1 year, you are eligible to get a promotion to a CG9. And then as you complete the overall training program, the goal is to be a CG11, which is then a commission examiner, and then a CG12 1 year after. So there is clear career ladder potential and promotion potential there within that 3.5 year period. Sandy, if you go to the next slide.
And I was just going to add, and the one thing great about our training program is that you're only competing with yourself. Everyone has the opportunity to go from that grade 7, 9, 11, 12, as long as you meet the benchmarks and pass the assessments along the way. So if there's 10 of you that are in it, like all 10 of you have the opportunity. It's not like you have to fight each other out to get it. Those spots are yours as long as you meet the benchmarks.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. So with regards to the CEP program, obviously the requirements are a little bit different than our regional internship program. Outside of the fact that you need to be a U.S. citizen, If you are to apply these positions, you would have to have graduated within 2 years of the date of the application and have a cumulative overall GPA of 2.95. In addition, as you can see, there would need to be 24 semester hours of coursework in these various fields: business administration, accounting, finance, marketing, mathematics, statistics, or economics, and at least 6 hours of accounting is required. And then lastly is a writing assessment. And that's something I wanted to go over a little bit closer in terms of, communication is very important in our organization. So as part of the application process, we do ask you to provide a writing assessment. And that's a 25-minute test that it'll be sent to your email and you can work on in your personal computer. And basically, it'll give you an example of a writing task that you have to edit and evaluate and make sure that you put together in good form. The one important thing with this writing assessment is if you do not pass a writing assessment, unfortunately, you're barred from applying for this position for 1 year until you redo the writing assessment. So basically, that writing assessment counts for 1 year of potential opportunity in applying for the FDIC. So again, I want to make sure that that is very clear. Any questions with regards to that program? And again, that program is outside of our internship. This is actually a full-time post-graduation opportunity.
Okay. Yes, I have a question in my chat about the internship. How many weeks is the program, or is there an approximate start and end date?
Yeah, so we like I said, we usually start sometime in May. We work with our interns to see when they actually finish the school year. So some finish at the beginning of May, some finish at the end of May. So we usually bring on 2 different classes of interns. And we usually try to go anywhere between 8 to 10 weeks in the summer. And that can vary depending on people's schedules. For example, I had an intern that was studying abroad that we had to end a little bit earlier, while others have gone the full 10 weeks and hopefully had the opportunity to spend a week or 2 home before they started school again. So again, it varies. We, just like we talked about a flexible schedule, we also try to we like to be very flexible with our internships and make sure that folks get a full range of opportunities during that internship and get the right amount of time while also managing their personal requirements or aspects of life as well.
Yeah, and my regional intern last summer worked from like the minute he got out of school until like the minute he went. So he worked like the entire summer and then,
Right.
and then continued through. Yeah.
Right. So again, it varies.
Okay.
Shannon, any other questions? I'm sorry.
That's
I don't
all
see any
on
in my chat.
end at the moment, right?
Okay. So we just wanted to provide a few links and basically highlighting some of the opportunities that we have and some of the links that we have available. So as you could see, we have the 2 links for the RMS regional intern as well as the DCP regional intern, and then the RMS FIS landing or the corporate employee program landing page, as well as the DCP corporate employee landing page. So again, the top 2 are the internship and the bottom 2 are the opportunity for full-time employment. Sandy, if you go to the next. Sandy, if you can go to the, oh, thank you. So here is all of our contact information, Sandy, myself, and Andrea. Obviously, please feel free to contact us should you have any questions along the way. And right here, we'll stop to give you the opportunity to ask us whatever questions you may have. We appreciate the time to speak with you and hope that you have interest in the FDIC and apply.
That's great. One of our professors is on here, Professor Mihal, and she's chatting to me. The students are very excited and looking into the application process. So maybe we could just, maybe we could share the links out or the presentation to the group after the fact so they can go ahead and follow up and find where to apply.
Great. And again, here's our contact information. If you have any questions along the way, we're certainly happy to help with that application process.
That would be great. And you said the deadline is coming up October 15th.
Correct. That's for the regional, for the internship.
For the internship, yes.
Yeah. Any questions for us? But we actually ran out of time, so sorry.
That's perfect. Yeah, so let's just see if there's any other questions, whether it's about the internship or the full-time roles or anything else.
I got one more question.
Yes, thank you, Dan. Go ahead.
So I know you said that the FDIC is like an independent organization, but it seems like it has similar power to like what a federal agency would have. So like, I was wondering how that process of what the FDIC does like actually works.
So we are quasi-government, which means that we do not rely on the government for funding. We are funded through deposit premiums that our banks pay, that they pay. However, yes, we are a federal agency and we do abide by all, federal rules and regulations. If that makes sense, Dan, and that hopefully that addresses your question, unless Andrea and Sandy have something else you'd like to add.
Well, I was just going to add one thing, like, so when there was a government shutdown at one point, we weren't shut down because we're privately funded. We have great benefits, as Mike referenced earlier. We have the benefits, but we act kind of with a board of directors that kind of sets our goals.
Right, but for example, our chairman is appointed by the president. And again, we are in general a federal agency, so we're not an independent company.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Shannon, unless we have any other questions, we'll leave and give someone else an opportunity to speak.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to, is it okay to share out the presentation? I have a copy with the students for review. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Michael, Andrea, and Sandy. We really appreciate your time this morning. I know we have a handful of students who are eager to look into preparing their applications, so that's fantastic.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you, everyone.